We're going to be working on uploading firmware and a map to your ECU. Well, I've already done a video on kind of navigating through the support link on the Velocity Devices website. You're currently looking at their home page. There we go. I just clicked on the support link, and again, just kind of going through real quick. Adobe Reader at the top is got to have that to open up these links. All the stuff up here at the top is just for reading purposes, and I trust that y'all have already done all that. Getting down here to the good stuff where we download our firmware and software and all that. At the bottom, zoom in a little bit. There you go. I have a 700 King Quad, so I'm going to be looking at the ECU software. The CDI up here is for their non-fuel injected machine, as it says. Directions for updating or for loading the firmware is going to be on this link here, and then this one here, of course, has actually got the software. The first thing you got to do is load up the software to your computer. Hopefully, you got a laptop computer, because in order to load up the firmware, you're going to have to take it out to the. You're going to have to take your laptop out to the bike to upload firmware. But anyway, I'm kind of doing this on a desktop computer just to show you in a more controlled environment how to do the video. I'm gonna go ahead and click on that link, and what comes up is the options here. Now, what you're looking at, this right here is the Copperhead EFI 2.5 version. That you got to click on this and get this loaded up to your computer to actually set up the software on your computer, your home computer, your laptop preferably. This is going to set up a structure on your computer so that it can read firmware and maps. So that's the first thing you got to do. The 2.5 version is the key. It's the latest version. It's got the date on it. Always check out the date, 2008. It's pretty recent. So but anyway, after you get that loaded up, the next thing to do is to get some firmware and map on your ECU for your bike. And so right here is the ECU. Clicking on that. Alright, I got a Suzuki, so I'm going to select Suzuki. And I have the 2006, so this is 05 throughout 07. Okay, and you got your Articat and 750 and all that stuff down here. Here's your ECU revision history, so you can see which one's the latest and greatest revision. 5.3 is what you want. You want your 5.3 revision firmware to match your 5.3 map. So firmware and map updates need to match. And here's your older versions. If you like a 5.2 version with a 5.2 map, you can go down here and get all that straight. But we're looking for a 5.3 version. Click on that. And all it looks like is just a bunch of encrypted stuff. So what you do is, let me get back to it. Rather than click on it, what you want to do is you want to right click, and most computers will say save target as, but for some reason mine says save link as, and I'm working on XP. I'm going to hit save link as, and I got a folder called VDI, so that's where I want to put this saved link at. 2005 plus 700 revision 5.3, so we know that that's going in that folder. And we can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it the same name. And then you just hit save, and it's going to go to your computer. And that note just basically said it already exists, but I'm just kind of showing you the procedure for that. So now you have the firmware in your folder, and my folder is located on my desktop. Alright, the next thing you got to do is get a map on here. So I'm going to pick a map. I want a Suzuki map. I want a King Quad 700 map. And I don't have the 109 injector, so I want the 5.3 map. Here's your old versions. Okay, here's your 109. The parent directory just takes you back to the previous page, and the README just tells you what all this is. So we went to the latest and greatest maps from 5.3. There'll be more than one to pick. Articats, King Quad 700s and King Quad 750s on down. I want King Quad 700, and here's the 87 octane, 91 octane HMF. Switch 1, switch 2 basically. And here's 8791 without HMF. It just says revision 5.3. This one says revision 5.3 too, but it's kind of off the page there. And on down here is this OEM setup. It's kind of like a stock setup with, and then the 87 octane will be with limiters off, and this one will be with limiters, with HMF, one without. So when it says OEM, you might also plan on having limiters. If it has a 91 or an 87 octane, that particular switch setting will be without the limiter. It'll either be 87 octane or 91. So anyway, 8791 HMF, that's me. It's a 5.3 version. It's going to match my firmware. If you click on it, it's just going to mess up, and your computer won't be able to read it. So just kind of wanted to show you that'll mess up. Right click. You want to hit save target as or save link as, and I already have a bunch of maps in there already, so I'm not going to save it, but in your case you'll have to save it. I got a bunch of different maps. You'll want to make sure that it goes in the VDI folder, which mine's on my desktop, and you gotta make sure you got the name right, and you hit save, which I'm not going to do, and then boom, you got a firmware and a map on your desktop. And so, alright guys, well I went out to the four-wheeler to try to do this firmware update, but the sun's glaring off the laptop too bad, so I'm not going to be able to show you anything outside. I'm going to try to do it inside. One of the first things you got to do is pull up your 2.5 software, your VDI software that's on your computer. I go to all programs and look on there, and I have a Copperhead EFI. Click on that, and then it'll give you another one. Boom. Alright, you'll pull up the blank map. When you loaded your 2.5 version software, this is what you were basically loading. And so anyway, once you get this pulled up, go ahead and hook your memory interface and your USB up to your laptop and hook this to your ECU. Turn the key on, turn the thumb switch on, and your computer may recognize this memory interface and it'll do everything automatically. And so anyway, once that kind of takes place, you'll still be looking at this map. Well, your first thing you got to do is you got to get a map recognized on this screen. So you go to File and hit Open. Once you click on File, you click on Open, and then you should see, here's your map. And see, I had a VDI firmware folder on my desktop, and here's the map, 5.3 version, and I'm just going to hit Open, and then boom, all the information's on this map. So now I'm ready to load my firmware. So the way you do that is you hit Flash, and it'll say Write Flash. What it's basically saying is to write the firmware to the ECU. And so if you got it all hooked up, keys on, thumb switch on, you go ahead and hit Write Flash, and it'll start loading. A bar will come across the screen. It'll load up like 120 pages or something, and then it'll let you know when it's done. And when it's done, you cut the key off, cut the thumb switch off, go ahead and pull your memory stick loose from the ECU, and just move your computer out the way, and you'll be ready to start it. And so I'll do another video on how to upload a map, just a map by itself. The firmware is a little bit more trouble, but Write Flash is how you upload your firmware, and where it says map and it says write to pod, that's how you would upload a map. So there you go.